Prince Harry nearly broke down in tears in court today, weeping about Meghan Markle's misery. And he was told to stop arguing back by the judge. Well, Prince Harry was giving evidence in his privacy claim against the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday in the High Court today.
Devastating moment for Prince Harry's reputation and credibility, as he argues with a judge while in the dock, contradicts himself, appears to fib about using the pseudonym Mr. Mischief.
A British prince didn't just clash with a judge once or twice, but 3 times in one single day. His legal team is reportedly backing away fast, and his wife is 5,000 miles away, casually posting on Instagram like nothing's wrong. This wasn't just awkward, it was wild. This is the real story of how Prince Harry's court case spiraled into a full-blown train wreck in real time. And believe me, it goes way deeper than anyone expected. Here's how it all went down. On January 22nd, 2026, Prince Harry walked into London's High Court thinking this would be his big justice moment. This was supposed to be serious.
Prince Harry broke down in big boy tears as he gave some testimony today in his lawsuit against the Daily Mail, claiming that they have made his wife's life an absolute misery.
Prince Harry, right before we got on here, we also found out he's on the stand today in London. He's in court. I feel like every time we come on here, Prince Harry's in court. He doesn't look great in the court sketch, I'm going to be honest.
Well, as we all know, Prince Harry is in the UK. He is testifying around this case that he has against the Associated News.
Powerful and controlled. Instead, it turned chaotic fast. He's suing Associated Newspapers Limited, the company behind the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday, accusing them of phone hacking and illegal information gathering. The claims go all the way back to 2001 through 2013, and the money on the line is massive. We're talking about a $38 million legal fight. Harry isn't alone either. He's leading a group of 7 high-profile names, including Elton John and Elizabeth Hurley. This case was meant to be his final face-off with British tabloids, his big moment to expose them, his chance at public vindication. But the moment Harry took the witness stand, everything fell apart. Let me break this down step by step, because this got messy in a way nobody saw coming. Picture this. Harry's sitting in the witness box. The Daily Mail's lawyer, Anthony White, starts asking questions. Within minutes, Harry isn't just answering, he's pushing back, he's debating, challenging, getting heated. The tension in that courtroom shot through the roof. The judge had to step in, not once, not twice, 3 separate times. And this wasn't just any judge.
Arrogant and pig-headed Harry started arguing with the judge. This was just part of their exchange.
Everything going on with Harry today, I feel like it's a need to talk about his big boy man tears. He's so emotional, guys. His poor wife, she lives in misery in her $16 million mansion with her 4.4 million followers on Instagram, her Netflix deal, her show on Netflix, all these sorts of things, and she's so miserable.
Prince Harry, you're crying on the stand. In life, we don't always get what we want, right? We want friends, okay? We've all been in that situation. We want a friend, a loved one, a relative to take accountability, to apologize. It doesn't happen, okay? You're expecting a big newspaper conglomerate to come crawling to you to apologize. It's not gonna happen. You can either move on with your life.
This was Justice Matthew Nicklin, a seasoned media law expert who's seen it all. And even he had to stop the proceedings because Harry wouldn't stop arguing. The first interruption was almost gentle. The judge tried to calm things down and said, and this is a direct quote, "This is a big moment. You're doing exactly what lots of litigants do. You tend to argue back about what he's putting to you. You don't have to bear the burden of arguing the case today. That's from Mr. Sherborne." That's Harry's lawyer. The message was clear. Answer the questions. Let your legal team handle the fight. That's literally what lawyers are paid to do, but Harry didn't stop. The second time the judge jumped in, the patience was wearing thin. You could feel the frustration building in the room. Harry kept debating instead of answering. By the third intervention, things got firm fast. Harry started arguing over what qualifies as a journalistic source. That's when the judge shut it down completely.
I think Harry reveals more than he thinks he did, because he's, of course, trying to pull out the heartstrings about his wife, who, honestly, I feel like the judge should have told him straight to his face, your wife's feelings have no bearing on this trial whatsoever, Harry. This is about Chelsea, Cressida, your former girlfriend, you know? But he has to bring up his wife. I'm sure that's what his lawyer was doing. But I honestly have absolutely zero sympathy for him and his wife in this instance. If they had been quiet and dignified, would I have some more sympathy?
He basically said, listen, I am a media lawyer. This is my job. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Imagine that for a second. A prince arguing with a high court judge about media law inside the judge's own courtroom. That's not confidence. That's dangerous. And here's why this matters so much. This isn't a jury trial. There's no audience to impress, no emotions to play to, no crowd to win over. There's only one person deciding this case. The same judge Harry argued with 3 times in one morning. That judge alone decides whether Harry wins or loses. Full stop. That's the entire game. And yet, Harry couldn't keep it together for even a single session. One legal analyst sitting in the courtroom later said Harry looked rattled, uneasy, and like he never properly settled in the witness box.
Harry's evidence came forward a day. So Harry originally wasn't meant to be giving evidence until tomorrow. Now, I think it scrambled him a bit. He seemed uneasy from the moment he arrived. He didn't really settle properly in the witness box, and he came in, and Anthony White very cleverly immediately got him onto this thing of being part of the institution lane, and right from the off, Harry was on the defensive and very bristly and very abrasive, and the judge intervened 3 times to try and calm him down. I mean, the first time, which was the one that you showed there, he was actually quite sympathetic, and he was quite like, look.
The Daily Mail's legal team pulled a slick move the day before court, and it completely knocked Harry off rhythm. They cut their opening arguments from a day and a half down to just 90 minutes, which pushed Harry's testimony forward by a full day, and the lack of preparation showed immediately. This is where things started getting emotional and seriously confusing, because during his testimony, Harry's voice cracked, and he looked close to tears as he said directly from the courtroom, "They have made my wife's life an absolute misery. I think it is fundamentally wrong to have to put all of us through this again, when all we were asking for is an apology and some accountability." And at first, that sounds emotional and sympathetic, right? But then one key detail flips the whole moment on its head. This case is about alleged phone hacking and illegal information gathering that supposedly happened between 2001 and 2013. And that timeline matters a lot. Harry didn't even meet Meghan until 2016, meaning she had absolutely nothing to do with the 14 articles he's complaining about in this case, not involved, not mentioned, not even present in that part of his life. So why is she suddenly front and center in his testimony? Why bring her up in a case where she has zero legal connection? And here's where it gets even stranger, because while Harry stood alone in a London courtroom with no support beside him, no familiar face in the gallery, Meghan was back in Montecito, California, and reports say she was posting on Instagram that same week, showing off their home, their pool, and their lifestyle. The comment sections exploded instantly, with one person writing, "Why is he even mentioning her? She's nothing to do with the case," and the years that these claims were about, while another added, "Meghan is 5,000 miles away posting on social media while Harry falls apart in court." And the optics could not have been worse. This couple built their entire image around being united against the world, a ride or die partnership. But when Harry stepped into what he calls the most important legal battle of his life,
showing off their home, their pool, their lifestyle.
I think part of him is happy to be there because he misses the British culture and he hates being at the house of Meghan. I think Prince Harry would rather travel to London to sit in a courthouse than be stuck in the asylum with her in Montecito. Okay, I just think that's the truth. And then some other bad news in Harry and Meghan world, their show has been canceled. Season 3 of With Love, Meghan has been canceled by Netflix. They won't be doing any more, which I'm not shocked because nobody was watching it, okay? That show is like number 5,206 on the Netflix charts. So Harry and Meghan, I think they're done. Okay, Harry and Meghan, if I were you guys, your show's been canceled. You're not going to be the next Martha Stewart, Meghan. I mean, the fact that Meghan Markle had a cooking show and she moved pretzels from one bag into another was crazy.
Standing there alone, and people noticed hard. And just when it seemed like this couldn't look any messier, things went from bad to unbelievable, because Harry stood in that courtroom and complained about the media commercializing his private life, saying directly, "I've never believed that my life is open season to be commercialized by these people." And that statement stopped people cold. This is the same man who released a 400-page memoir called Spare, where he shared deeply personal family moments, private conversations, and text messages between his wife and Catherine about bridesmaids' dresses. He openly talked about losing his virginity, past drug use, and his military service, turning his own life into a global product. He followed that with a multi-million-dollar Netflix documentary where cameras trailed him and Meghan through their private struggles, and then sat down for a massive Oprah interview watched by tens of millions worldwide to discuss deeply personal family matters. Yet now he's standing in court, arguing that the media has no right to commercialize his life, and that contradiction landed hard with the public and raised questions he clearly wasn't ready to answer. One comment that pulled in over 1,200 likes summed it up perfectly. If Harry wanted privacy, he wouldn't have released Spare.
This is my job. I understand that this is a big moment for you, but you're making a mistake that a lot of people make. Let me just tell you, your job now is just to answer these questions. Let your legal team answer the case. And Harry seemed to kind of go, okay, my lord, yeah, whatever. Then he carried on, then he did it again, and then he did it a third time, and it was really bad the third time. So,
and another person followed up saying, "You can't sell your story to the media and then complain about media intrusion. That is sheer hypocrisy." And honestly, that sentiment spread fast. The judge could see it, the lawyers could see it, and everyone watching from the outside could see it too. The problem is simple but explosive. Harry wants it both ways. He wants to make millions telling his own story, but he wants nobody else to be allowed to talk about it, frame it, or question it. And that contradiction kept hanging over the courtroom like a storm cloud. And then things got even more uncomfortable when Chelsea Davy came up. Remember her? Harry's former girlfriend, the one he dated for years before they split in 2010. Chelsea has long moved on with her life. She's married, she has children, and she runs a successful jewelry business, all while staying far away from royal drama. She's lived quietly and with dignity, but suddenly her name was dragged straight back into court. Several of the articles Harry is complaining about involve Chelsea, and he spoke about how the press made her life difficult, even revealing that he called her the night before his testimony to talk about what really happened back then. Think about that for a second. Imagine how Chelsea feels, how her husband feels, being pulled back into a circus they escaped years ago. One comment even said Chelsea should issue a cease and desist and stop Harry from using her name to prop up what they called his ridiculous court case. And that comment didn't come out of nowhere. What made it even more awkward was the tone Harry used when talking about Chelsea in court. The emotion, the regret, the heavy, what could have been energy was impossible to miss. All while his current wife was back in California, posting on Instagram. People picked up on that contrast instantly, and it didn't help his image at all. Then the Daily Mail's lawyers dropped another twist by bringing up something called the Mr. Mischief Facebook account. They claimed Harry used this alias to contact journalists on social media, including Charlotte Griffiths from the Mail on Sunday. Harry denied it outright, but the lawyers suggested they had receipts to back it up. And that wasn't the end of it.
When you look at him bringing up Meghan in this moment about what happened in the past, for me, it looks like he is trying to do what happened in the past because of what happened to Meghan in the present. But if it is about what happened to Meghan in the present, then why not bring a lawsuit about what happened to Meghan in the present? You know why he won't do that? Because, first of all, there's not other people that he can come in with this same lawsuit to strengthen his case like he has with the other people that are in on this court case, all these other people. It's just him and his life with this woman. But also, Meghan's life that she lived in the UK.
One of the journalists Harry accused, Katie Nicholl, pushed back through the legal team and said, "No, Harry, you invited me to party with you at Kensington Roof Gardens in 2011, basically saying they weren't enemies at all. According to her side, they were in the same social circles, friendly, and on good terms at the time. That detail hit hard because it cracks his entire narrative wide open. It suggests Harry wasn't just an innocent target being chased by hostile reporters, but someone who played the media game when it worked in his favor and is now trying to rewrite history when it doesn't. And now we get to the most serious part of this whole mess. There are growing reports that key members of Harry's legal team have either resigned or are seriously considering walking away from the case. That's not normal, and it's not small. When solicitors step back in the middle of a trial, that's a massive red flag waving in plain sight. One legal analyst explained it clearly, saying when lawyers walk away like that, it's usually because they believe their client's instructions are no longer sustainable or the evidence has completely fallen apart. They're not abandoning the law, they're abandoning Harry's version of events, and suddenly the Daily Mail's strategy makes a lot more sense. They came loaded with emails, phone records, and documentation pointing to legitimate journalistic sources. And that preparation is now putting Harry's entire case under serious pressure. And this is where the case starts looking less like a fight for justice and more like a slow collapse in real time. Because once the cracks started showing, everything followed. Court insiders began whispering that Harry's testimony wasn't landing the way he thought it would. Instead of sounding calm and credible, he came off scattered, emotional, and stuck in his own head. That's a problem when facts matter more than feelings. Multiple legal watchers pointed out that Harry relied heavily on assumptions instead of hard proof. Over and over again, his answers leaned on phrases like believing something happened or feeling certain the press was behind it, but belief isn't evidence. And in a courtroom, especially one dealing with media law, that distinction matters a lot. The defense jumped on that weakness immediately.
It is all caught up on an emotional high, emotional roller coaster of, having to work with the press, having to then be, part of the press's news gathering, story making arm, and there's no real balance between the two. But at the same time, that's just the life you get. It's a quid pro quo. You get this luxurious life. You're born into privilege, things you never had to work for. But the compromise to all of that is that now you have to put up with things in the press that probably do make your life miserable.
At several points, Harry admitted he couldn't actually prove who leaked what or how certain stories were sourced. He suggested it must have come from illegal activity, but when pressed for specifics, things got vague fast. The defense lawyers didn't even need to raise their voices, they just let the gaps speak for themselves. Silence can be louder than shouting in court. Observers also noticed how often Harry circled back to his general distrust of the media instead of sticking to the articles in question. That emotional pattern may play well in interviews, but in a legal setting, it weakens your case. This trial isn't about feelings, reputation, or long-standing resentment. It's about proof, timelines, and sources, and Harry struggled to stay locked into that lane. And then came the moment that really changed the temperature in the room. The defense highlighted how many of the stories Harry complained about could be traced back to public appearances, official statements, or well-known social connections. That undercuts the hacking claim in a big way. If information is already out there, it doesn't need to be stolen. Some legal experts said this was the point where the judge visibly leaned in, not emotionally, but analytically. This wasn't about sympathy anymore. It was about whether the claims could survive close inspection, and that's when the imbalance became obvious. The defense was calm, structured, and document-heavy, while Harry's side leaned hard on narrative and memory. People following the case also noticed something else. Harry often framed himself as powerless, but the court kept circling back to the fact that he is one of the most recognized people on the planet. Access, privilege, and influence kept coming up indirectly, and that contrast didn't help his argument.
So this is mostly over his time with Chelsea Davy. Not Meghan Markle, Chelsea Davy, the woman who I think honestly probably truly loved Harry for Harry. And I don't think she was all that interested in royalty, the royal trappings, in the money or the fame, anything like that. She is not interested in that. She's proven that over her years since. Meghan Markle, meanwhile, was absolutely attracted not to him, but to what he could give her. So let's keep going.
The idea that he had no control over his public image didn't fully add up. Online reactions only intensified as these details leaked out. Commentators began saying this wasn't a case built on solid ground, but one driven by emotion and long-standing frustration. Some even questioned whether this lawsuit was ever about winning, or if it was about making a statement, regardless of the outcome. By the end of the day, the mood around the courtroom had clearly shifted. What started as a high-profile challenge to the tabloids now looked like a risky gamble spiraling fast. The confidence Harry walked in with didn't match the uncertainty he walked out carrying. And the most damaging part? None of this was hidden. Every stumble, every unclear answer, every correction from the judge was being documented, analyzed, and shared in real time. In a case centered on media power, Harry was losing control of the narrative again, right in front of everyone. The defense laid it all out, and it hit hard. They showed that many of the 14 articles Harry is complaining about were built on information from people who willingly spoke to the press, and that detail changes everything. Some of those sources were reportedly people from Harry's own social circle, not shadowy figures hiding in the dark. That alone undercuts the entire hacking narrative, and it doesn't stop there. Journalists Rebecca English and Katie Nichol are both set to testify, and these aren't random bloggers or gossip accounts. These are established professionals with long careers, and they're stepping up to defend their reputations publicly. They're not backing down, and that raises the stakes even higher. Now let's talk about the financial nightmare closing in fast. If Harry loses this case, he doesn't just walk away disappointed. He's on the hook for the Daily Mail's legal costs, and that could mean tens of millions of pounds. That kind of loss would be devastating for anyone. On top of that, reports say Harry still owes money from previous legal battles. Some sources even claim he's already around $38 million in debt. This lawsuit was supposed to be his big moment, his payoff, his redemption arc, maybe even a settlement to fix his money problems. Instead, it's turning into a public unraveling that could seriously wreck him financially. So zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. Harry is stuck between two worlds, and neither one is holding him up anymore. There's the royal world he was born into, the one that protected him, cleaned up mistakes, and gave him endless advantages. He walked away from that world and burned those bridges publicly. He wrote a book tearing into that life, and now there's no going back. But the new world he tried to build in California isn't holding together either. The Netflix deal is gone, the Spotify partnership collapsed, and the projects meant to rebrand them didn't land the way they hoped. Even their charity efforts struggled to gain traction, and their overall brand has taken hit after hit. This lawsuit was supposed to fix everything. Instead, Harry argued with the judge 3 times in one day. His legal team is reportedly stepping back. The evidence isn't lining up with his claims, and his credibility took damage after contradictions from his own book came back into focus. And the person he says this fight is all about isn't even in the courtroom. Public opinion didn't stay quiet about it either. The comment sections lit up instantly. One person wrote, "He's his own worst enemy and delusional," while another said, "Court is for facts, not feelings." And one comment that kept getting shared said, "Maybe if he doesn't like the press, he and his wife should stop phoning them." Here's the brutal truth people keep circling back to. Harry wanted to be seen as a warrior for justice, standing up to corrupt media power. Instead, many now see someone acting entitled, deflecting blame, and struggling to handle criticism while trying to control who gets to tell his story. He wants to profit from his life but stop others from writing about it. And that contradiction isn't landing well. The judge seems to see through it, the lawyers clearly see through it, and the public definitely sees through it. The only person who doesn't appear to see it is Harry himself. And that might be the most uncomfortable part of this entire saga. So what do you think? Is Harry right to take on the tabloids, or is this shaping up to be one of the biggest examples of public hypocrisy we've seen in years? If you watch this and have thoughts, drop them in the comments below. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit subscribe and stay locked in for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who needs to see it.